Hey, Deserving listeners, a lot of you asked that I watch the last episode. Now, a lot of you are asking that I watch the reunion. Let's check it out.
Have you seen or spoken to Raquel?
No. She texted me, it took her 48 whole hours to text me, I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry. And I said, fuck off, you fucking rat. And I blocked her.
Okay, so briefly, let's analyze this apology. Let's look at the text.
Hours to text me, I don't even know what to say.
Okay, so seemingly for Ariana, she does not accept or consider the apology to be adequate, but let's look at it. Well, first, let's think of the circumstances. So for Raquel, as soon as it became known, and as soon as Raquel knew that Ariana knew, then that begins a timer, if you will, in terms of apology urgency. If Raquel apologized right away, the first day, that might have carried some weight with Ariana, seemingly. Ariana says that it took 48 hours. And that's where empathy comes in. If you're in Raquel's shoes and you want Ariana, at the very least, to not be more upset at you, then you want to put yourself in Ariana's shoes and imagine what she's going through. Obviously, it wouldn't be hard, hopefully, to imagine that Ariana would be going through a lot. Plus, every second that ticks on the clock, every minute that goes by, is another minute where it's possible that Ariana is noticing that Raquel is not apologizing. We, in our personal lives, we can think about this too. It is a part of what we see in the research that one of the factors in receiving forgiveness, receiving your apology being accepted, and those are very complicated ideas, the acceptance of an apology and forgiveness. And by no means do you have to accept someone's apology, and by no means do you have to forgive them, contrary to some people's beliefs, which I've gone into detail in my deep dives. But so one of the factors in receiving acceptance and forgiveness is how soon one apologizes, right? If you hurt someone's feelings and wait 3 years to apologize to them, then all that time, the transgressed upon individual has time to have more hurt, right? It's not just the transgression itself. Now there's more transgressions in that you are not apologizing. So transgressions are piling upon transgressions at that point. So if you have some knowledge about that, some empathy, some even self-preservation, if you're Raquel, you could selfishly say to yourself, I'm better off if I apologize as soon as possible. I don't even have to care about the other person. I should try to save my own skin here, kind of, at the very least, I should apologize. Now, we understand why a lot of people wouldn't, because they're scared, they're distracted, who knows. So Raquel and Ariana were friends, so presumably Raquel would feel bad, right? But really, Raquel should feel bad regardless if she had never met Ariana, because she knows that she's harming someone. So now it's mostly on Tom, of course. So then this text comes in, and we have to also think about a text apology. So even if you were legitimately apologetic and sorry, it would be really hard to communicate that through a text. It's possible if it's a minor transgression. I mean, I think I've apologized to my wife over text before, and she to me. So, it can be done for sure. It's all about what's being communicated and what's being received. So if you have a really solid prediction that the text method and also the nature of the text will actually land in the way that you're hoping it lands, then go for it. But if you don't know, then I wouldn't risk it. I would, at the very least, have a phone call, if not an in-person conversation. So Raquel conceivably could have called, right, or met up with Ariana. So there's that. And then she says 2 days later, Ariana, I don't know what to say right now besides I really effed up and I am so sorry. Yeah, I mean, that certainly sounds sorry. It sounds like Raquel is. I don't know if Raquel is legitimately sorry. You could imagine Ariana not reading that in a kind light because, well, if you're so sorry, why did you do it for 8 months? Now that you're caught, you're sorry? Because that's suspicious. So if Raquel legit felt bad the entire time, then she should probably emphasize that, right? She should say, I was plagued every day And here is why I didn't say anything, because of this reason and this reason. And it's not right that those are reasons, but those were my dumb reasons. But yeah, I legit felt ashamed of myself. I felt bad. I thought, something like that. This, it could be read as you're sorry because you're caught. You're not sorry because you did it. And then Ariana says, shut the F up, you effing rat. and then earlier, it sounds like she said, you are dead to me. Yeah, I get it. If I were there with Ariana when she was about to send those texts, I mean, I certainly wouldn't stand in her way, but well, I'll just say for myself, if I were in Ariana's shoes, I would absolutely have these thoughts, but I would also consider just saying them to myself or to my friends or into a pillow, screaming them into a pillow or something. I certainly would have those thoughts and have those impulses, but to say it to the individual, I've been in situations like this before, and even though in those times I feel justified, I usually later am glad that I didn't, because I don't know, it just feels like I'm stooping to their level. But I think that's a personal choice. I don't think many people would fault Ariana for saying those things.
They were filming.
I just noticed that you left the laundry on early, and I just wanted to check in with you and make sure that you're okay.
We weren't a part of it, but then a bunch of us went to the Abbey, and it was that night.
You had sex that night?
Yeah.
Oh, so I think that's different than what he was saying earlier. And I won't bore you with the whole song and dance that I said in an earlier video, but in summary, it is universal, seemingly, that cheaters, when they come clean or they're caught, when they are asked about the details, they will minimize and lie about the details. They will say, we never had sex, or it's only been going on for a month, when they have had sex many times and it's been going on for much longer than a month. And by the time I see the cheaters in my office, as the couple is trying to recover from the infidelity, or the cheater just seeks out therapy, or the client has been seeing me for a while and then reveals to me that they'd been cheating or something, then I will tell them to stop doing that, because it doesn't help, because it almost always comes to light, because it's hard to remember the lies. Also, it's just going to plague you. If you truly want to apologize and come clean and recover, these lies hanging over your head. I mean, right now you don't want to tell them all the details, but in 2 years, what happens when it's eating away at you and you feel like you have to tell them all the details? It's going to destroy things even further. So your two options, your two moral and healthy options, are tell the truth or say, I can't answer that question right now and I'm sorry. It's much better to incur the anger or the hurt or the upsettedness about not being able to answer because you just really don't want to answer. It's not the best, because you should answer. But if you don't want to answer, then just say, I'm sorry, I don't want to answer. And then I will tell the cheated on partner, the transgressed upon partner, that those are the options. And you're free to be upset if the cheater says that they can't answer. But know that they're making a good choice, because they are on the verge of lying. So it's better that they say that. So be reassured that it's better than it would have been. So it's not great, and we'll keep talking about it, because coming clean often is the road to recovery for everyone. Not only for the relationship, but even for the cheater, even if they break up, which is, it seems like they're going to, that for the factors that led up to the infidelity to begin with are also playing a role in the continued lying and sabotaging oneself. I mean, there is a bit of sabotage here, right? The risk that he took, the lack of decision making, the way he's possibly destroying his career and his life. I mean, there's so much, his marriage, any respect anyone had for him. It's incredibly self-destructive what he did. And those factors are still present and still at play, because he is still lying. Does he have a therapist that he's talking to?
Were you suspicious that something was going on?
Absolutely not. No.
Watching the show, you vehemently stood up for Tom.
Obviously, I love Raquel, like, dearly. She's one of my, like, closest friends. And I not only trust and love her, but I trust and love my boyfriend.
Yeah, it's very common. One, it's very easy for people to deceive their partners if they want to. And two, over time, you just tend to trust, right? I think it's partially based on a couple things, but one of the things that I'll mention is that our society has a stereotype of what a cheater looks and acts like. That is not accurate. I don't know what stereotype I would describe it as, but, someone that's more chaotic, someone that's more flirty in front of you, someone that's creepy or something, someone that's generally untrustworthy, someone who lies all the time about a lot of things, a gaslighter, a narcissist, whatever the internet terminology is of the day. And that's not the case. The nicest people on the planet, my dogs are barking. Think of the nicest person on the planet, regardless of gender. And that person could cheat. I'm not saying that person, but a person like that can absolutely cheat, and cheat in one of the most psychopathic ways you could imagine, where they cheat for 5 years on their spouse, the person they're married to, with multiple people, doing it right under the nose of their spouse, and just lying right to their face. The person who does the most egregious cheating can absolutely just be a sweetheart. So there are many roads to cheating psychologically. And I think the reason why we have a stereotype about it and a misunderstanding of the profile of someone who cheats, I think makes some people assume that, well, my partner would never do that. I mean, look at them. They don't fit the profile.
Tom came up to me and was like, Ariana's really mad at me right now.
Because he couldn't get a ride.
Home to you?
Yeah, because Jason left.
Don't you think you should have just gone at that time?
I don't think he knew he left at the time. Here's the thing. I feel like as a loyal and committed partner, if he gives me an answer, I give him the benefit of the doubt and I trust him.
Yeah. I'm going to take a guess and say that Ariana hasn't been through enough of these sorts of traumas to be overly suspicious. But even if she had, like I said, if someone in a very convincing way says, oh, I was with Tom Schwartz and that's what we were doing. And you're like, oh, okay. I mean, why would you think otherwise, right? Especially if Tom Sandoval hadn't had any other indications. But it seems, I think I've heard that he had some indications. So maybe Ariana does have a bit of a blind spot there. But I don't know. Usually when I hear these kinds of things and I investigate more, I can relate to the person. Now, could someone like Ariana be a little bit more suspicious and still be within the range of health? Maybe, but it's not usual. Usually people are pretty trusting.
For Raquel's birthday.
We love you, Raquel.
Love you, Raquel.
At that point, were you two together?
No.
You were not?
No.
Okay.
We had that first time.
Yeah.
And then we took a break.
When did it kick back up?
I remember it being a little after we went to Life is Beautiful, which was
I mean, one of the questions that you have is how many people has Tom done this with? Because I'm sure Ariana's thinking this, and I'm sure a lot of people are. It would be kind of dumb not to think this, that Tom has cheated a number of times. I mean, who knows? Maybe the only times that we've heard about are the only times he's done it. But the fact that the circumstances that the cheating happened, it sounds like a lot of Tom, Raquel, and others went out to this place, had drinks, and then Tom and Raquel had sex that night. It wasn't even a buildup, seemingly. There wasn't, and I'd be surprised if there wasn't a buildup, if there wasn't some flirting or some kind of thing happening, a crush or something. Who knows? It wouldn't be unusual for Raquel and Tom to downplay that or deny it or something, and maybe that'll come out at some point. But regardless, the circumstances of that first one night stand, and the seemingly that they didn't start a relationship right away, according to Tom, and God knows. But I tend to Well, what do I tend to believe? I wouldn't be surprised if you could characterize after having sex that first time that there was a break. I mean, notice that he said a break. He didn't say it was over. He said it was a break. So they might have just downgraded their romantic affair to texts and eye contact or something and stopped having sex, but the feelings were still there. It would be surprising if that weren't the case, especially given the way that Tom has described the relationship. But anyway, so just looking at the circumstance, how easy that happened for Tom and how little he was busted up about it. Because for some people, when they do something like that, they're so ashamed and they're so busted up and they're so plagued by it that other things will happen that will indicate that it was a rare event and that it affected them. They might confess a week later, or they might go back to therapy suddenly, or they might retract socially in a very severe way, or they might have physical symptoms. I've had clients who have been racked with shame and guilt from infidelity and have had physical symptoms, heart problems and digestive problems and phantom pains and migraines and sleep problems, nightmares. It's real because it's a struggle on the inside. So the fact that seemingly Tom just did this, and also over the span of his relationship with Ariana for 9 years, there have been a number of questionable things and questioned things and opportunity that it seems likely that he'd done this before. There's a possibility that he's had full-on affairs with other people, and it just naturally sort of ended because what would have happened here, right? Was Tom ever going to tell Ariana? He says that he was, but who knows?
Like after we wrapped.
But before BravoCon,
Yeah.
you had that concert. I'm standing down in the front. Ariana's there and Raquel's there. When you're standing on stage and you see your girlfriend and your mistress next to each other.
I'll commend the host here for really highlighting it. I wonder if the other shows, the viewers of Love is Blind or 90 Day Fiancé would appreciate such pointed questions.
What are you thinking? Did it get you off?
My God, no.
Looking back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an accusation that Tom was getting off or that he was getting some sort of ego boost or something. It could be, but given what we've seen from Tom and given what I know, which is limited, y'all know a lot more about him than I do, but even that is limited because we only know from what we see. And, take it from me as a therapist, and you therapists out there can attest to this as well, that people are deep and complex. So even if you were someone's best friend, you might not necessarily know whole sections of their personality. Anyway, but given what I've seen about Tom, he doesn't seem to fit the profile. Might he have a little chuckle to himself of just like, wow, I mean, I have two beautiful women who are cheering for me and praising me in that romantic way. It feels nice. It's possible, but not some sort of Machiavelli, like, ha ha ha, look at what I have created. And so in all likelihood, he was just either in denial or terrified. It's not uncommon for people who cheat to be in a state of worry, of just like, what's happening? But I bet you anything he had been used to it because the cast spent a lot of time together in front of cameras, and this situation wasn't any different.
Are there situations now that you think, how did I miss this?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. More so with her than him, because we all know men are trash. No, no offense. But
I'm going to co-sign that.
But
as a man, of course, I guess I'm biased, but as a scientist and as a therapist and as a studier, I've read thousands of research papers on the differences between gender and specifically infidelity. And I'm here to say, as women gain more power in society, meaning that they're able to work outside of the home, comparing women's rights and cultural liberty from 70 years ago until today. It has, women have gained more power. They still aren't at the level of social power, political power, economic power as men, legal power as men in our society, but, the gap is closing. As women gain more power, then we see the gender gap in infidelity close as well. They're not necessarily causal, but it stands to reason that for every human, they have the factors psychologically and circumstantially that can lead to infidelity. And it doesn't matter what gender a person is. And can there be trends based on socialization of men and women, because we do socialize boys and girls differently. Also, might there be a biological component to the motivation to cheat? It's possible. Testosterone, there's hypotheses out there about such matters. But the fact is that a lot of women cheat. So just know that. And this notion that men are dogs is arguably giving men an excuse. It's saying, well, men, boys will be boys. And it validates or it excuses men and their behavior. So that's another reason why I wouldn't recommend having that point of view. Also, it's just frankly inaccurate and denies the massive amounts of immoral infidelity that people of all genders participate in.
My life as my friend, how could someone be as close to me as she did? And then, you know what I'm saying? With a guy, I almost kind of more expect it, but I can't imagine doing that to one of my friends.
The big question on everyone's mind is, how did things come to you cheating on your girlfriend?
Yeah, getting back to what Ariana said about, I can't imagine doing that to one of my friends. Yeah, I imagine that most people can't. The thing I'll say about this is that there are two things. One is that it is possible that under no circumstances would Ariana and other people like her do that to one of her friends. So I'll just say that better decision-making skills, that sort of thing. The other thing I'll say is that it's hard for us to know what we would do in a situation like that. It's easy for us from afar to say, I would never do that, because we've never been in a situation or we haven't been compelled. When we fall in love, right, when we're not cheating and we meet someone and, date 5 or even date 1, we just think, oh my God, I love this person. I just want to be with them all the time. We understand that that's a compelling motivational force, perhaps one of the most compelling. There's evidence that the same systems that are involved in addiction to things like cocaine are in play when we fall in love. The infatuation, the constant wanting to look at them and talk to them in the positive ways we see them and the denial of everything else in our life. We clearly evolved a system in our motivational brain structure to motivate us to bond and to couple, at least for the vast majority of us. So it's a compelling force. Now, imagine that you're in a relationship that is not going well, and you know it's not going well, but you don't really know what to do about it. And then before you know it, boom, you have that feeling. It's a compelling force. I'm not saying it's right. It's not. And there's an easy way to rectify that, which is to take a pause or even immediately break up. It'll be rough and maybe it's hasty, but there's a way not to cheat, which is to break up right as soon as you can, right? So there's that. But so we can't really know what we would do. I'm not saying that it's normal to do it. I'm just saying it's easy to say you would never do it. It's sort of like how some people would say, oh, I'd never join a cult because I'm too smart. And what I say to that is, people become indoctrinated into a cult not because they're dumb. It's because of circumstance and also psychological factors, blah, blah. But anyway, so another thing that I've been really focusing on are Tom's factors, what would lead him to do it, and speculating about that, mainly because they've only shown me anyway, watching these few episodes, data about Tom. I haven't seen much about Raquel, but there's a lot of There's a lot of exploration there and hypotheses hunting regarding why did Raquel do this? Why did Raquel cheat? Who pursued her? Who? I guess that is kind of, maybe they'll get into that. Why did Raquel do this to Ariana? Why did Raquel lie? Why did Raquel self-destruct? They both, I'm sure, it was front on their mind, especially as the weeks went on, that if this gets out, hopefully they would understand that a lot of negative things could happen to them. Now, some people will say, no, there was no more sure, better, effective path to stardom and fame than this. I had never even heard of this show before this thing happened. So how many other people are in those shoes? Did Tom and Raquel basically just cement themselves as fixtures within the reality TV universe because of this? It's possible, but it doesn't look that way. It looks, I would suspect that they legitimately were having an affair and were hoping that it wouldn't come out. But man, the decision-making skills. Okay, well, let's adjourn there and tune in next time when I continue watching the reunion. And everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.